Chosen one, stop right now. Do not scroll. Do not multitask. Do not tell yourself you'll come back to this later, because later is exactly how people miss moments that were designed to alter the entire trajectory of their lives. What I'm about to reveal is not encouragement. It is not motivation, and it is definitely not coincidence that you are hearing this now. There was a moment recently, quiet, unannounced, unrecorded, where something shifted around you in ways you could not see, but heaven did. And when that shift happened, it caused a pause, not on earth, in the spiritual realm. You didn't feel fireworks. You didn't hear thunder. No one clapped. No one validated you. And that's exactly why it mattered so much. Because what you did was not performance. It was not for attention. It was not calculated. It came from the deepest place of who you are, and that is what made it dangerous to darkness. You responded differently than expected, not just differently than people expected, differently than the enemy calculated for. You were placed in a situation that was specifically engineered to pull something ugly out of you, a reaction, a breakdown, a moment where you would finally say, "Enough," and let bitterness speak for you. Everything about that moment suggested you had the right to become hard, cold, sharp, detached, and instead, you chose restraint. You chose grace. You chose not to become what tried to wound you. That single decision did more in the unseen realm than years of visible effort ever could. Let me explain why. In the spiritual realm, patterns matter. Reactions matter. Frequency matters. Most humans operate predictably. Pressure produces anger. Pain produces retaliation. Betrayal produces bitterness. These responses are so common that they barely register anymore. But every once in a while, a soul does something unexpected, something uncooperative, something that does not align with trauma, history, or probability. And when that happens, it creates disruption. You created disruption. Your response forced angels to look twice, forced observers to stop recording and start reviewing. Because what you demonstrated was not emotional control. It was spiritual authority. You showed that your identity is not negotiable under pressure, that who you are is not something circumstances get to rewrite. And this is where your story stopped being ordinary, because your guardian assignment escalated your file, not as a concern, not as a warning, but as a point of interest. The note attached was short, but it carried weight. This soul chose light while under active pressure. That phrase matters. Active pressure means the attack was ongoing, not resolved, not healed yet, not safe. And you still chose correctly. This is where higher attention gets involved, because when a human operates beyond emotional instinct and into spiritual mastery, especially without training, applause, or preparation, it indicates something deeper at work. Your situation was reviewed. Your history was examined. Not just what happened to you, but how you responded when no one was watching. And that's when something became clear. This was not a one-time moment. This was a pattern. You have been choosing the harder right repeatedly. You have been carrying weight you never asked for with dignity you were never taught. You have been showing restraint in moments where chaos would have been justified. And heaven noticed something that even experienced watchers. You were already functioning as someone who knew who they were, even before you consciously realized it. That is rare, because most people discover identity after affirmation. You discovered it through resistance, and that changed everything. Let me tell you something important. Heaven does not respond to words the way humans do. Declarations don't impress angels. Consistency does. Integrity does. Choosing correctly when it costs you something does, and you have been doing that quietly, which is why your timeline has shifted. You may have felt it without understanding it, a strange calm in moments that should have overwhelmed you, clarity where confusion used to dominate, distance from people who once felt permanent, doors closing without explanation, others opening faster than expected. This is not coincidence. This is reorganization, because when a soul demonstrates stability under pressure, heaven adjusts what it entrusts them with. You are being trusted with more, not because you asked, but because you proved you could carry it. There is a reason attacks have not landed the way they used to. There is a reason words meant to destabilize you now fall flat. There is a reason situations that once drained you now lose power quickly. Your frequency changed, and when frequency changes, access changes. Let me explain something the enemy understands very well. Darkness does not fear loud believers. It fears stable ones. It fears people who cannot be provoked into losing themselves. Because provocation is how authority is stolen. When you react from pain, you hand power over. When you respond from truth, power stays with you. And you chose response. That choice neutralized more opposition than you realize. Energy sent toward you did not stick. It reversed. Not because you fought, but because you refused to descend. That is advanced spiritual warfare, and you did it instinctively, which is why attention intensified. This is also why your season is changing faster than expected. Accelerated alignment is now active in your life. That means things that would have taken years are being compressed, not because time is speeding up, but because resistance is being removed. You are no longer being trained the long way. You graduated early, and with that comes responsibility. Because what you carry now is not just for you. You are becoming a reference point. Your presence affects rooms. Your silence speaks louder than arguments. People will not always know why they feel seen, challenged, or steadied around you, but they will feel it because you carry proof that it is possible to remain whole in a world designed to fracture people. This is why certain relationships could not come with you, not because they were evil, but because they were incompatible with who you are becoming. And heaven is protective of this phase. You may notice fewer warnings now, less resistance, not because you are unnoticed, but because you are covered. There is a classification attached to your journey now, not a title you wear, a designation that follows you. You are recognized as someone who has demonstrated strength without cruelty, authority without ego, light without naivety. This is not common, which is why your path will not look common. Do not expect everyone to understand you. Do not expect validation to arrive before results. Do not expect comfort to precede calling, but do expect alignment. Do expect momentum. Do expect moments where things resolve themselves without effort. That is not luck. That is cooperation from the unseen. Your prayers are being handled differently now, not louder, faster. Your requests are being filtered through recognition, not desperation. And this is important. You will still be tested, not to see if you fail, but to reinforce what you already proved. Each time you choose correctly, capacity expands, influence widens, assignment deepens. You are not being watched because you are fragile. You are being watched because you are effective, and heaven invests in effectiveness. Now listen carefully. The reason this message reached you now is because you are standing at a threshold. One version of you stays private, restrained, quietly strong. Another version of you begins to affect others intentionally. You are not being asked to speak louder. You are being asked to remain true. Your example will do the rest. People will come to you without knowing why. Moments will present themselves without planning, and you will recognize them, not as burdens, but as confirmations, because grace is now encoded into how you move. You don't have to force it, just don't abandon it. You are not behind, you are not late, you are not overlooked, you are early, And what you demonstrated recently proved you are ready. If this resonates in a place that feels deeper than emotion, if something in you recognizes this not as hype, but as confirmation, then you already know. You crossed a line, and there is no returning to who you were before. Write 777 in the comments if you understand this wasn't random. Subscribe and stay close, not for content, but for alignment. And don't ignore what's coming next, because now that you know who you are, everything around you must adjust. Chosen one, pause for a moment. Not because something dramatic is happening outside you, but because something irreversible has already happened inside you. You didn't announce it, you didn't celebrate it, you didn't even fully understand it, but something in you shifted so quietly that even you almost missed it. And yet, in the unseen realm, it was impossible to ignore. There was a moment recently when you felt tired in a way sleep could not fix. Not physical tiredness, not emotional exhaustion. It was something deeper, a realization. You looked at situations that once controlled your emotions, and for the first time, they no longer had the same power over you. You didn't explode. You didn't beg. You didn't chase explanations. You simply observed. And that was the moment everything changed. Because most people react. Very few people awaken. You awakened. You stopped trying to force outcomes, stopped trying to prove your worth, stopped trying to make people understand your heart, and instead of fighting to be seen, you became still. That stillness was not weakness, it was authority. Let me tell you something you may not have realized. When a chosen soul stops reacting and starts discerning, the spiritual environment around them restructures itself. You were placed in situations that were designed to test your emotional limits. People said things they knew would hurt you. Circumstances unfolded in ways that felt unfair, illogical, and targeted. And for a long time, you carried it silently. Not because you were afraid to speak, but because something in you was changing faster than your environment could understand. You began to see patterns. You noticed how certain people only appeared when they needed something. How some conversations were never about truth, only control. How certain conflicts were repeated cycles meant to keep you emotionally trapped. And slowly, quietly, you stopped feeding those cycles. That decision was not loud, but it was dangerous. Because when you stop feeding what drains you begins to starve. You didn't argue, you didn't expose, you didn't retaliate. You withdrew your emotional energy. And in the spiritual realm, that is not retreat, that is strategic dominance. Most people think power looks like confrontation, but real power looks like detachment without bitterness. You mastered that. Not perfectly, not dramatically, but genuinely. And that authenticity is what caught attention beyond what your eyes can see. Let me explain something that few people understand. Darkness does not fear angry people. It fears people who cannot be manipulated. When you get angry, you become predictable. When you seek revenge, you become controllable. When you crave validation, you become vulnerable. But when you become calm in situations designed to provoke you, you become untouchable. That is what happened to you. You stopped explaining yourself to people who never intended to understand you. You stopped chasing clarity from those who benefited from your confusion. You stopped lowering your standards to maintain connections that were never aligned with your destiny. And in doing so, you crossed an invisible threshold. There is a reason certain people suddenly felt distant from you. There is a reason some conversations stopped naturally. There is a reason you felt less emotional attachment to things that once felt essential. This was not loss, this was separation. When a soul outgrows manipulation, manipulation loses access. You may have felt lonely during this shift, but loneliness was not the truth. You were being repositioned because chosen souls cannot remain in environments that require them to shrink, and you refused to shrink any longer. You may remember moments where you wanted to speak but chose silence instead, not because you had nothing to say, but because you realized some people do not deserve access to your thoughts. You may remember moments where you could have exposed someone's behavior, but chose restraint instead. Not because you were protecting them, but because you were protecting your peace. That choice was not small. That choice was revolutionary. Most humans seek justice through confrontation. You sought peace through wisdom, and wisdom operates at a frequency that chaos cannot touch. This is why your emotional landscape feels different now. Problems still exist, challenges still appear, but your internal response has changed. You are no longer drowning in situations. You are observing them, and observation is the first sign of mastery. Let me take you deeper. There was a time when criticism would have shattered your confidence, a time when rejection would have destroyed your self-worth, a time when silence from someone important would have triggered anxiety. But recently, something changed. You felt disappointment, yes, but you did not collapse. You felt confusion, yes, but you did not lose yourself. You felt pain, yes, but you did not become cruel. That is not emotional numbness. That is emotional evolution. You are no longer controlled by external validation. And when validation loses control over you, destiny gains access to you. This is why your path feels strange lately. You feel disconnected from old versions of yourself. You don't fully relate to who you used to be, and yet you don't completely understand who you are becoming. This in-between phase is not confusion. It is transformation. Most people resist transformation because it feels uncomfortable, but you did not resist. You allowed it, even when it hurt, even when it isolated you, even when it made you question everything you thought you knew. That willingness to evolve is what separates ordinary souls from chosen ones. Chosen ones are not perfect. They are adaptable. They are not always strong. They are honest with themselves. And you have been brutally honest with yourself lately. You stopped pretending that certain relationships were healthy. You stopped lying to yourself about certain dreams that were never truly yours. You stopped forcing yourself to fit into spaces that required you to silence your intuition. And when you stopped pretending, alignment began. Alignment is not always dramatic. Sometimes it looks like quiet withdrawal. Sometimes it feels like losing interest in things that once excited you. Sometimes it feels like emotional distance from people you once prioritized. But that distance is not coldness, it is clarity. And clarity is dangerous to anything built on illusion. This is why you felt a strange peace recently. Not happiness, not excitement, peace. A calm that did not match your circumstances. A stillness that did not make logical sense. That peace was not random. It was a sign that your soul had reached a new level of authority. When your soul stabilizes, your environment eventually follows. But before the environment changes, isolation often happens, because you cannot carry new frequency in old spaces, and you understood that intuitively. You did not beg people to stay. You did not force conversations. You did not chase closure. You simply allowed things to unfold. That is not passivity. That is confidence. Confidence that does not need to prove itself. Let me tell you something that may surprise you. The moment you stopped over-explaining yourself was the moment you became dangerous to manipulation. Manipulation survives on doubt. But you stopped doubting your instincts. You stopped questioning your perceptions. You stopped asking, "Am I overthinking?" and started asking, "Why am I tolerating this?" That shift is irreversible. Once a chosen soul sees clearly, they cannot return to blindness. This is why certain situations will never feel the same again. This is why some people will never have the same access to you again. This is why your standards feel higher without you consciously raising them. You did not become arrogant, you became aware. And awareness is the beginning of power. You are entering a phase where your silence will speak louder than your words, where your absence will be felt more than your presence, where your refusal to engage will disrupt more than your arguments ever could. And some people will not understand this version of you. They will say you changed. They will say you became distant. They will say you are no longer the same. They are right. You are not, because the version of you that tolerated disrespect is gone. The version of you that begged for understanding is gone. The version of you that sacrificed peace to maintain connection is gone. And it is not coming back. This is not rebellion. This is evolution. And evolution always feels lonely at first. But loneliness is temporary. Alignment is permanent. You may not see the full picture yet, but something inside you knows. You crossed a line. Not a line of anger, not a line of pride, a line of self-respect. And once that line is crossed, there is no return to emotional slavery. If this message feels uncomfortably accurate, it is because it is not inspiration, it is recognition. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering who you were before the world taught you to shrink. And now that you remember, nothing around you can remain the same. Stay still, stay aware, stay anchored. Because the version of you that emerged recently is not temporary, it is permanent. And everything in your life is about to adjust to it. Chosen one, listen carefully. What is happening now is not loud, and that is exactly why it is powerful. After everything you have already endured, after the internal shift you could not undo, a new phase has begun. And this phase does not announce itself with struggle. It begins with reactions. Not yours, the world's. You may have noticed something strange lately. People respond to you differently now. Some feel uncomfortable around you for no clear reason. Some grow quiet in your presence. Some suddenly try to regain access to you. None of this is accidental. Your energy no longer asks for permission. You are no longer seeking approval, and that unsettles those who benefited from your uncertainty. There was a time when people could predict you. They knew which buttons to press. They knew how to pull emotion out of you. They knew how to keep you engaged even when it cost you peace. That version of you is gone. And when predictability disappears, control disappears with it. This is why certain people are watching you more closely now. Not because they admire you, because they can no longer read you. Your calm has become intimidating. Your silence has become disruptive. Your boundaries have become non-negotiable. And here is the part most people don't understand. You didn't become distant. You became selective. You didn't stop caring. You stopped overgiving. You didn't lose empathy. You gained discernment. Discernment is dangerous to those who rely on confusion, because confusion creates dependency. Clarity creates independence, and independence is the beginning of authority. You may have noticed that some people try to provoke you back into your old self. They bring up the past. They test your patience. They attempt guilt. They attempt familiarity. But you don't bite. Not because you're cold, but because you're awake. You can see the pattern now. You can feel when something is meant to distract rather than connect. You can sense when a conversation is about power, not truth. And instead of explaining yourself, you disengage. That is not avoidance. That is mastery. This is why the world around you feels like it's adjusting, because it is. Your internal shift forced external recalibration. Things that once tolerated dysfunction can no longer coexist with your frequency. This is why opportunities are approaching quietly, not with hype, with alignment. You won't have to chase what's meant for you in this phase. It will recognize you, and you will recognize it. There will be less noise, less chaos, less forcing, and more precision, more timing, more intentional encounters. Let me tell you something important. The enemy does not waste energy on what it can no longer influence. This is why attacks have changed form. They are subtler now, more psychological, more indirect, because brute force no longer works on you. But here's the truth. You are not confused anymore, and confusion was the only door they had. You know when to speak. You know when to walk away. You know when something isn't for you without needing proof. That instinct is sharpened now, and it didn't come from comfort. It came from surviving moments that should have broken you, but didn't. You didn't just survive. You integrated the lesson. And integration is what transforms pain into authority. This is why you feel less reactive, why things that once triggered you now feel distant, why your emotional center feels stronger. You are not numb, you are regulated. There is a difference. Numbness disconnects you from life. Regulation anchors you within it. And you are anchored now. That anchoring is what allows you to stand in spaces you once avoided, to remain calm in conversations you once feared, to walk away without resentment. And resentment is what used to keep you tied. You are not tied anymore. This is also why your circle is shrinking, not because you are losing people, because you are losing tolerance for misalignment. And misalignment is exhausting. You no longer have the energy to pretend, to explain, to convince, to shrink. And heaven does not ask you to, because what's ahead of you requires clarity, not compromise, strength, not noise, presence, not performance. You may not fully see it yet, but you are being prepared for visibility, not spotlight, impact. There is a difference. Spotlight is temporary. Impact is lasting. And impact requires stability, which you now have. This is why your growth feels quiet, why it feels internal, why it feels lonely at times, because foundations are being set, and foundations are laid underground. No one applauds them, but everything stands on them. The next phase of your life will not be chaotic, it will be intentional. Not rushed, not forced, not dramatic, but precise. And precision always looks slow to those who don't understand it. Do not rush what is unfolding. Do not explain what doesn't need explanation. Do not revisit doors that closed without resistance. They closed because you were ready to move forward, not because something went wrong. You are not missing anything. You are being positioned. And the version of you that exists now, calm, discerning, grounded, is the version required for what comes next. You didn't lose your fire. You learned how to control it. And controlled fire builds. Uncontrolled fire destroys. You are no longer burning yourself to keep others warm. You are conserving energy for what matters. This is maturity. This is power. This is alignment. Stay steady. Stay present. Stay honest with yourself. Because what's unfolding doesn't need your force, it needs your consistency. And you have already proven you can provide that. What comes next will meet you where you are. And when it does, you will recognize it, not by excitement, but by peace. Because peace is how alignment feels. And alignment is no longer optional for you. It is who you are now. Chosen one, understand this now. What you are experiencing is not a pause, it is refinement. Life around you may look quieter, slower, almost uneventful, but beneath that calm, precision is taking place. This is the phase where distractions fall away without a fight, where urgency dissolves, where you are no longer rushed into decisions just to feel movement. You may have noticed that you no longer feel the need to prove anything. Not your pain, not your loyalty, not your value. That need disappeared because it served its purpose and then expired. You already proved yourself, not to people, to yourself, and that is the only proof that changes a life. There was a time when uncertainty lived inside you. You questioned your instincts. You second-guessed your perceptions. You wondered if you were asking for too much or expecting too little. That internal debate has grown quieter, not because everything is answered, but because you trust yourself now. And self-trust changes how reality responds to you. You don't chase clarity anymore. You wait for it. And what is meant for you arrives without confusion. This is why you feel less emotional turbulence lately. Even when challenges arise, they don't hijack you. They pass through you. And that tells you something important. You are no longer living from wounds. You are living from awareness. Awareness gives you options. Wounds only give you reactions, and reactions kept you stuck for longer than you realized. Now, something else is happening. Your tolerance for noise has dropped. You can feel when something is unnecessary before it fully enters your life. Drama feels exhausting. Arguments feel pointless. Explanations feel redundant. You are not above people. You are just no longer available for confusion. This is why some opportunities no longer excite you. Not because they aren't good, but because they don't match where you're going. And where you're going requires focus, not stimulation. You are being trained for responsibility, not attention. That's why this season doesn't come with applause. Applause would distract you. Silence sharpens you. Let me say something clearly. You are not being delayed. You are being aligned. Delay feels heavy. Alignment feels quiet. And quiet can feel uncomfortable when you are used to chaos. But chaos was never your natural environment. It was conditioning, and you are unlearning it. This is also why you may feel protective of your time now. Not possessive, intentional. You choose rest without guilt. You choose distance without anger. You choose truth without needing agreement. Those are signs of integration. You didn't just learn lessons. You became them. And when you become the lesson, life stops repeating it. That's why cycles are ending. That's why patterns are breaking. That's why things that once followed you no longer have access. You graduated from them. This phase prepares you for something that requires steadiness, not reaction, not urgency, not emotion-driven decisions. Steadiness, because what's coming won't ask for your panic. It will ask for your presence, and presence is something you finally have, fully, without fragmentation, without apology, without fear of losing yourself. You know who you are now, not as a label, as a state, and that state is not shaken easily. So if things feel quiet, don't assume something is wrong. Quiet is where alignment locks in. Quiet is where clarity settles. Quiet is where strength consolidates. Stay there. Don't rush the next chapter. It is already moving toward you, and it will arrive not with noise, but with certainty.